Hello again. So glad that you have tuned back to my YouTube channel, and if you are new, my name is Sari and you are watching my knitting podcasts. In today's episode, I'm gonna share what I have on my needles, what my next cast on plans are, and I'm gonna show you a couple of finished projects. One of them is this lovely silk mohair cardigan I'm wearing at the moment. But I'm gonna start today by showing you what I'm knitting at the moment. I have showed you this project already before on this podcast. I haven't been knitting this that much. I've been concentrating on other stuff at the moment, so this hasn't grown that much yet. This is gonna be a pullover with a quite loose fit. As you can see, it's quite wide, and it has this simple crossing cable stitch pattern, and I'm knitting it flat in pieces. And the yarn I'm using for this is from Ginger Twist Studios. This is Ginger's hand-dyed sheepish Aran, and the colorway is called Voyager. And I bought this yarn from Edinburgh when we were there a bit over a month ago, almost 2 months ago. And we visited Ginger Twist Studio. It was a really tiny little yarn shop. If you want to see more of that, go check out my yarn shopping in Edinburgh video. You can find it in on my YouTube channel. So you can see the shop, how it really is. I filmed a little bit when we were over there, so you can watch that video. But this yarn is from her shop, and like I said, the colorway is called Voyager. And I really like the name of the yarn, and also because I bought this when we were traveling, so I'm calling this pullover also the Voyager sweater. And here we go. I like knitting with smaller needles more. I like the most, the needle size that I use the most is probably 3.5 millimeters and 3 millimeters. So at the moment I'm knitting with 6 millimeters, so this is huge for me, and I feel a bit clumsy working with this, especially doing the cables. So that's why the process with this one has been a bit slow. I have to get used to the needle ends are quite blunt. I'm more used to sharper needles, so picking up stitches. I don't use a cable needle when I'm knitting cables, so cabling with these blunt big needles has been a bit challenging for me, but I keep reminding myself that it's not about getting stuff done really quickly, it's about the journey. And despite the big needles, I really enjoy knitting this. The colorway is absolutely gorgeous. I'm so in love with this. So if you have been watching my YouTube channel previously, you probably know that my favorite colors are green and gray, and this definitely doesn't disappoint. I love this color. It's at the same time it's very deep, but still it manages to be very bright at the same time. So it's like this very lovely jewel tone, emerald green, sea green, what would you call it? And the stitch definition is really amazing. And despite my and even though I prefer knitting with smaller needles, the big needles do have their advantage, because even though I would be knitting just a line or two, a row or two of this, then I still get a lot of done because the gauge is so much looser than it would be for smaller needles. So just a couple of rows really add up to a lot compared to small needles and small stitch size. Another thing that I've been working on, I've also showed it to you here on my YouTube channel previously. I've been working with these basic socks. I've been trying out different heel types. First I knitted one pair with a heel flap and gusset, and then I knit one pair with afterthought heels, and this is the third pair I've been working on, and it has a double wrap short row heel. I think this is my favorite. I think it's the prettiest heel and it's really quick to work. The second sock is almost finished. I'm knitting the toes at the moment, so they should be ready tonight. And the yarn I've been using for these is this is Retrosaria Mondim, and the colorway is the hot pink. I think it's 108 or something like that. I'll write it down below this video so you can check it out there. And the main yarn I used for this is Hedgehog Fibers sock. The colorway is called Teacup, and there's the same pink speckles as for this one. You can see here. It's pretty similar, so I think they work really nicely together. When I finished with these ones, I will be casting on another pair of socks, but this time for my son. He's been asking for a new pair of socks for a while. Actually, yesterday in the evening when I was knitting those socks, he was sitting on the sofa next to me and he was wearing the already finished sock and saying that these are his, even though they were like way too big for him. I think his foot is something like this, and the heel was somewhere near his calf. So I'm going to knit a new pair of socks for him. He has one pair, but I think he's growing out of them really quickly, so I'm just going to cast on a new pair for him. He's a real yarn enthusiast. Actually, he likes going through my sock yarn drawer and picking colors and carrying them around the house and telling me that these are his and he's gonna have this color and this color and this color. And I really like watching the 3-year-old mind working and picking colors and color combinations and what he chooses. So probably in the next episode you will be seeing the beginnings of socks for my son. But that's actually, I have a couple of other whips at the moment, but they're at that kind of stage that there's really not anything to show at the moment. So I'm not gonna show them to you here today. Probably next time I have something more to share. For example, I'm knitting the Klein pullover by Julie Hoover. It's my second Klein pullover, like I mentioned in the previous episode. So that's something I've been working on. But like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, my brioche shawl is now finally over, and it's huge, it's really long. So you can see here it goes, and here's the other end. So this is the dark side of the shawl, and here is the light side, and it has these diagonal stripes of garter stitch going over it. So just put it on. Luna is here saying hello again. So it looks like this, and I'm really looking forward to wearing this outside. At the moment I'm having the test knitting. I put the test knitting call on my my Ravelry page, but at the time of when I'm recording this video, I assume that the testnet is already full, but you can go and check it out. There might be still room for a couple of testknitters. I don't know at the moment. This started out with my like for myself. I wanted to learn how to knit brioche, so I started this project. This is really simple in that manner. It has only the basic brioche stitches like brioche knit and brioche purl and simple brioche decreases and increases. So very simple brioche project, but I really loved working on this. I just looked on Ravelry when I started this and how long it took for me to finish it, and I noticed that I was knitting it for 2 months, but never in that time did I get bored working on it. I absolutely loved working on this, and I was really sad when I finished it. So another thing that I'm going to be casting on very soon, it will definitely be another brioche shawl. This technique is highly addictive and it gives a whole new aspect to combining colors, in my opinion. I'm calling this the Mackenzie wrap. When we were in Scotland, I had this project with me. I was knitting this when we were driving around the little roads in the northern parts of Scotland, and I just kept noticing how well the colors worked with the Scottish nature and the landscapes. And when we were visiting castles and museums, I noticed that the Scottish tartans, the clan colors, they also matched the colors of this shawl really well. So that's why I named the shawl Mackenzie. And of course, as an Outlander fan, I like how it goes with James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser. So that's also one reason why it's called Mackenzie. So that's finished, and the pattern is coming as soon as the test knitting for this is finished. Then some new yarn that I have. This is from Studio Mies, and this is her new base. It's DK weight. She has previously only had fingering weight yarn. I'm not sure when the DK base will be available for purchase, but this is a custom dye job she did for me, and I sent her a picture of a pullover that had this really gorgeous off-white yarn with tiny speckles of dark gray and blue, and it was like this really minimalistic yarn. And I tried to look online where to buy similar yarn, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So I asked Caroline from Studio Mies to dye it for me, and she did an amazing job. So this is how the yarn looks like, and this is going to be a pullover. This is superwash merino, and it has a really nice twist, so I'm sure that it's going to have a lovely stitch definition, and it's going to be a cabled pullover, so all over cable pattern. So I think this is going to work perfectly for that. And the speckles give the design a bit of a character, so it's not that another off-white cabled pullover, but the speckles give it something a little bit extra. Here you can see. see the speckles. So there's really dark gray and bluish speckles. So very minimalistic, but it's definitely something that I absolutely love. Then let me talk about this pullover or cardigan that I'm wearing. I can't remember if I showed it to you in the previous episode. I think I did. This is knitted with Shibui Knits silk cloud held together with Sana, and the colorway is ash, and it's a very low V-neck cardigan. Really simple, really classic design, but I have noticed that designing very minimalistic knitwear is actually a lot harder in some ways than knitting something that is full of cables or full of lace or a lot of things going on, because when you are designing or knitting things that are minimalistic, even the smallest mistakes would show. If you have something that has a lot of cables and you miss one knit stitch and do one purl stitch instead, nobody will notice it. It's going to be invisible in everything that is happening. But if there's somewhere over here, if I make a mistake and knit one purl stitch instead of knit stitch, everyone will notice that mistake. So there's no room for mistakes with really simple knits, and often people think that the simple knits are really easy to knit or really easy to design, but I would say it's the other way around. The simpler the design gets, the more skills you have to have both knitting it and designing it, because all the pieces have to work together, and like I mentioned, there's no room for mistakes. I've been trying to pay attention to details with this one, so there are no shoulder seams at all. These are grafted together with Kitchener stitch, and there's a minimalistic neckband that continues to the neck edge, and here at the bottom there's this simple 1x1 ribbing, but for the sleeves I have made a different type of ribbing, so they are not the same. Here, and a very simple bottom band over here. There's one mistake I made with this cardigan, and if you have a really sharp eye, you have probably already noticed what the mistake is. Especially those who have test knitted for me previously know that I have a really hard time knowing the difference between left and right. Yes, that's absolutely true. I'm not kidding. I remember when I was getting my driver's license, and the instructor told me that you should turn left here, and I turned to the right, and he was like watching it or looking at me and just like commented, okay, whatever, we can go this way as well, doesn't really matter. So I'm known to make mistakes with left and right, and for example, naming the cable directions is really hard for me to like understand which way the cable is going, and that's something that I often make mistakes with. I'm naming the right cables, left cables, and vice versa. So for this pullover, I have the button band on the wrong side, or the buttonholes are on the wrong side and the buttons are on the wrong side. So as you can see, here we go. Usually for ladies pullovers, you have the buttonholes on this side and the buttons on this side. So that's a mistake I made. But when I'm writing the pattern, I'm going to write it the right way. So the buttons will be on the not right side. I have put them on the right side, but on the left side. So here's one mistake I've made, even though I said that designing pullovers with minimalistic details doesn't leave any room for mistakes, but here's one. But I'm going to be completely upfront about it, and I'm just a human, I'm not perfect. So there's gonna be a test call for this one as well very soon. And I mentioned in my previous Finnish speaking episode that there's gonna be a test knitting goal for the dark gray turtleneck cabled pullover, but I mentioned that it's gonna be in a couple of days, and a couple of days were already last week, and I still haven't finished writing the pattern, or I still haven't posted the call for test knitters for that one, but I'm working on it. Sometimes I forget that I'm like a one-woman band over here, and this is not my day job. I have another day job that I go to. Also, I have a 3-year-old son, like I mentioned, so this is kind of a hobby for me, and instead of being really harsh on myself when I haven't finished something in time, I'm trying to be more mindful and forgiving and giving myself the time. And the last week I have felt more like knitting than sitting near the computer and writing patterns. So then I decided that okay, I'm gonna knit. So that's why the pattern isn't ready yet, but trying to get it ready for test knitting as soon as possible. The same with this one. And I have 2 hat patterns also ready for test knitting. They have actually been ready for test knitting since summer, but for some reason I have been totally lazy this September, October, so I haven't had time to do half the things that I was planning to do. But there will be 4 calls for test knitters open very soon, and the Brioche shawl is now open in my Ravelry group, but like I mentioned, it might be already full. I don't know how quickly it's gonna be filled up. One last thing I'm gonna show you here. I had the opportunity to be a product tester for Hannah-Lisa Haferkamp, the HLH Designs, and she sent me her new tool pouch. So I'm gonna be testing these in actions. I'm gonna do a separate video about these tools and how they work and what I think about them, but let me just quickly show you what's inside the pouch. There's this ruler with needle sizes. This is really good for me because I don't have anything that has both centimeters and inches on it, so I absolutely love this one. And the needle size measurements are good for me as well. They are also both in millimeters and in the US sizes, so that's really good. And it's made of wood. And then there's this I was going to say little needle, but this isn't that little. This is made of porcelain, and I already tested it. It works really nicely, even though it's quite big. I was a bit concerned about the size at first, but how I have tried it, it does work. these scissors. These I have also already tried. They have really sharp tips and they work really well. And then there's this tiny little pouch, and there are stitch markers. They are also made of wood, and there are different sizes. See here, bigger one and smaller one, and also different shapes. So there's this hexagon shape, a square, and a triangle. So I'm going to be testing these for a couple of days, and then I'm going to be making a video and telling you all about how they work and how I like using them. And they come in this little woolen pouch. Everything Hannah-Lisa does is sustainable and ethical, so I'm really looking forward to using these tools, because those are also some things that I'm really concerned about. And I haven't bought a gauge ruler or something like that just for that reason, because I haven't found one that would be both sustainable and ethical and ecological. Either they are made in China, or they are plastic, or they are so poorly done that I'm not sure if they will last the actual using of them. So I don't want anything that is just pretty to look at, but it should also work in reality as well. That's everything I have for today. Oh yeah, I forgot about this cardigan. One more thing about buttons. I don't usually knit cardigans. The main reason for that is buttons. I haven't really found buttons that I like, and I think the buttons are usually the make or break moment of cardigans. So even though you have a really nice design, the buttons might be something that bring down the whole thing if you pick the wrong buttons. So I asked around on Instagram for great places to buy buttons, and Mandy, she is the Smashing Puffin on Instagram. She told me about Textile Garden, and I looked at their site and they had so many nice buttons over there, so I ended up ordering 6 different sets of buttons, also so that I can try on which ones I like the most. And I picked up these are really simple bone buttons, and they are dyed grey, so I think they look really nice with this cardigan. I also bought some shell buttons and some with horn to try on, but I decided that I like these grey buttons the most. And yeah, that's everything for today.